So other than studying in the Indian education system, I had no clue how the Indian education system works. Basically, I'm a electrical engineer, trained as a chip designer, went to the US, came back to India in 2005. It just so happened that I was actually a day one investor with a company called Educational Initiatives. And educational initiatives had come with an interesting assessment. Like if you see how the Indian education system works, the assessment is done in school, and typically the teacher who teaches the class assesses the student. So sets the paper, corrects the paper, does the report card. So there was really no way to check learning outcomes. It was based on the student reproducing or really answering the question. So if you took a student from Maharashtra SSC grade, let's say grade 5, and then you took somebody from CBSE grade 5, and you took somebody from ICSE grade 5, there was no way to sort of normalize, there was no way to benchmark, because all the exams were held by the school, by the teacher, and by the student who was part of the class. So EI had come with a very interesting learning outcome test, which was called, or assessment you can call it, which was called ASSET. And basically the way they built the assessment was that at grade 5, what should the child know? So they basically developed these assessments which could be used independent of curriculum, independent of board, independent of which school they went to. So now you could really assess whether a child is learning or knows what he or she should know at grade 5, and it could be taken by a child in it. And the interesting thing was, actually the original plan was to do the assessment on the first day of class, because whatever has been taught to the child can solve the problems, solve this, and then the teacher and the school can look at the assessment. Of course, the parent can see the assessment and see whether the child is up to the mark, but it gives a lot of feedback. A good example is, let's say there's a class and there's a particular question, and let's say majority of the class has answered it wrong. Then basically that there is some problem with the teacher. So this is otherwise in the Indian system the teacher is king, right? So I think there were some very smart principles. Anyway, going fast forward, I left Intel in 2005, and then I used to go for the board meetings. And around 2010, I remember every time the CEO at that time, Sridhar, used to put a line item saying Duke, 40 lakhs or 42 lakhs. So that was basically the revenue we used to earn from Duke. And I used to ask him, Sridhar, what is this Duke and all that, right? And he used to say, oh, I'll tell you sometime, right? And then what happened was, one day, I think after 2013, when I came full time with EI, and I was on the board also. And then one day after the board meeting in Bombay, we were traveling to Pune. And so I got very good time with him, and I asked him, hey Sridhar, what's this? And then he said that, Duke came to India. Now, if you remember in 2009, at that time, Kapil Sibal was the HRD minister. And he came into, at that time he said he had a 90-day plan. And he said at that time that he will allow foreign universities to set up campus. So Duke came to India, they tied up with Shivnadar system, and they were waiting for the permission. Of course, as everybody knows what happens in India, 90 days went, 180 days went. So Duke was figuring out, now what should we do, right? So they said, okay, let's launch the gifted program, which is typically, people in India, problem with Indians is that they think gifted is a trophy or, a certification of merit. But the way the Americans do it is, it's a diagnostic where they say that the child has extraordinary potential, this potential needs to be nurtured, and this is in a limited window of 10 to 14. So that was how Duke came to India, and they said, okay, let's look at the talent out here. So the first 2-3 years, it was very random selection. They would call the alumni in India, oh, do you know some child with extraordinary performance, and then you bring that child into the program. And somebody told them, oh, there's this company in Ahmedabad, called Education. They have an assessment which you can sort of benchmark across schools, across boards. So that's how they came to us. And they were very smart. What they did was they told EI, oh, give us your top 10% and invite them to give an above level test. Okay, that's how. So for grade 5, they would test at 7, or at 6 they would test at 8. So that's how the whole assessment started. So on this train ride from Bombay to Pune, Mumbai now, I was sitting with Sridhar. I said, Sridhar, so when he explained to me, I said, they're taking our data, testing the child and inviting them for their program. And I said, why don't we launch our own asset talent search, right? Or our own talent search. That's how asset talent search came into work. So that's how asset talent search came into this. So the next year, we invited the top 10% to come and take asset talent search, and the top 10% were identified as gifted, gold, silver, bronze, and that list was handed over to Duke for them to invite the students. Now that happened for a couple of years, and then Duke decided to pull out of India. So we were left with no choice. Now you launched asset talent search. It was primarily for Duke because nobody else really was doing gifted programs. So then we had no choice. So that's how Asset Summer Program came into picture. So we launched our first Asset Summer Program, which was held in Bangalore in 2016. Then next year we really tried. By the way, it was held in the Reva University campus in Bangalore. And then the following year, Reva said, oh, we don't have space. And that's how we have landed up in Manipal. So since then, we have pretty much done the program in Manipal. Before we launched the Asset Summer Program, okay, and I had the opportunity to see the Duke program and the opportunity to see the Reva program. Frankly, one would like to say, oh, it's a gifted program, right? And I'm a big fan of this equation, which is basically in personality development, you need to be educated, you need to have a variety of experiences, and you need to have a variety of exposures. And I felt this program was absolutely, which ticks off all the E's. It's, you're taught by world-class mentors. It's a very unique experience because you meet other children who are on the same wavelength, and exposure because not only you get to experience exposed to kids who are of your similar type, but also world-class mentors, because most of our mentors are PhDs who have taught all over the world, worked in various companies, multiple geographies. So I think it's an amazing experience. I don't think I think even in India, I think these kind of mentors, probably you'll get them at the master's level. I don't think you get such quality mentors even at the undergraduate level. So that's basically how Asset Summer program started then. Then in 2018, we left, 2017, there was a private equity player came and bought out all our shares. And we really liked this program. Though it's a very niche program, we said it has to continue. So we launched, GenWise launched its first summer program in 2018. I think we had hardly 37 kids that time. That was the first year. And by the way, in 2018, we had two programs running simultaneously. We had the GenWise because we had started a new company, and Asset continued. So 18 and 19, we had two parallel programs, the GenWise Summer Program and you had the Asset Summer Program. So that went on for 2 years, and then of course COVID came. Then 2021 we had no programs, and then we restarted in 22. So 22, and interestingly after COVID, this time educational initiatives pulled out of the Asset Summer Program. They said no asset program. Instead, they wanted to shut down Asset Talent Search. And at that time, Pranav was the CEO. We knew him well. We called him and said, why don't you do the identification and we'll do the nurturing? And that's sort of the partnership now. So educational initiatives with Asset Talent Search identifies the gifted students and we nurture them. And so 22, 23, 24, 25th. So this is our 4th program post-COVID, and then we had 18 and 19. So this is pretty much our 6th program. See, there are many programs. Like the most common programs in India is these people who do outbound programs. They'll take you to a particular track, or they'll do a bunch of activities, but here it's very clear, these children have extraordinary potential, and this extraordinary potential, you have this limited window between 10 and 14, and in that window it needs to be nurtured. Advanced universities in the United States and Europe regularly conduct these programs. So for example, in the United States, you have the leader in this space. There are 2 leaders. One is of course Johns Hopkins, which is called CTY, Center for Talented Youth, and then you have CTD, Center for Talent Development, which is by Northwestern. These are pretty much the leaders in this space. Then you have Jerry by Purdue, you have ATD. So pretty much, there is recognition in the American system that these kids are going to define the society in 20-30 years. So they take these kids between 10 and 14, nurture them, and basically take these kids and treat them to or expose them to content which is pretty much at undergraduate level, and that's basically it. And these kids are, and you have, let me tell you some of the products of this system. You have Mark Zuckerberg of this, who went to the CTY program. He founded Facebook. Actually, he joined Harvard. He didn't complete Harvard. Maybe Harvard was too simple for him. So he left Harvard, started his own company. You had Sergey Brin from Google, also from CTY. Terence Tao, who won the Fields Medal. So it's a proven system. The problem in India is, they take this. First of all, they don't understand this extraordinary potential. There's only first rank, second rank. What are we doing in Asset Talent Search? You are taking a 5th grade student and pushing it to 7th grade. Right? We are going 2 levels above and seeing whether the brain power is working at that level. I don't think any of the tests do that or systems do that, right? So I think children with potential are probably the scarcest resource a country has. But we just don't have. It's more scarce than gold, because these are agents of change 20-30 years ago. I tried to, when we started, I had to do a lot of work even with an EI to get this started, because there were 2 new brands, Asset Talent Search, Asset Summer Program. EI had about 3 brands before that, 2 new brands, right? So, it was tough to do it, and it's tough. It's today also, for a country of 280 million people, we have to fight to get 150 to join this program. It's unfortunate, because a parent thinks that, मेरा बच्चा अच्छा है तो चलो IIT coaching में डालो, नहीं तो ये coaching में डालो, and life goes on. But who is losing out? They may get a good doctor, but they may not get a doctor who is going to define the next molecule for Alzheimer's or this, right? And that's why it's very says why US leads the world and India does not. No, there was a sense of purpose. It was not money. How much? We had 37 students. You work. I mean, you know it, yaar. I mean, just convincing a parent. I mean, you have to answer questions like, what will the kid eat? Where is Manipal? today I met a girl from Delhi who has not moved south of Delhi. For first time she's coming to South India and then, lands up in Manipal. That's the exposure of these children, right? And parents are even lesser exposed. Probably they've not moved out of their pin code. But that's the reality, And gifted students are everywhere. That's why, one of the things why I like to come back is, we sort of nurture gifted students from the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya system, and we try to support this. But if anybody has spotted a gifted child, we would like no gifted child to be left behind. But you need the resources, and government has no clue. Indian government has no clue whatsoever. Okay, they understand IAS, they understand these entrance exams. They don't understand that this extraordinary brain needs to be nurtured at the night time to create extraordinary personalities. So what happens is, I'll give you a good example, right? So let's assume a child is nurtured, okay? Let's say with undergrad math. So let's say the child is in 8th grade, gets introduced to the learning, the solving problems and exposure. The child now has no fear till undergrad level. So, it's a pass through. Now what happens is again the Indian system doesn't, accept it. But in the US, you can go and tell they have exams where the child can give those exams, take credits and move directly to the 2nd or 3rd year math, right? Which the Indian system doesn't. Here you are forced to do 1st year, 2nd year, 1st semester, 2nd semester, and it's periodic. But the American system allows you to move ahead of the system. You have to convince them. Now, let's say, and it's based on a trust. The Americans will allow you to take a 3rd year math program. Nobody stops you. Here, you can only go in 3rd year if you have finished 1st year and 2nd year. You can go and take a 3rd year. If you flunk, you come back. But these kids, by that time, they are on their way. I give you the example of Mark Zuckerberg. Probably he found Harvard too easy. And they just accelerate. But let me give you a nice anecdote. So I met a parent, when they heard about our program. Interesting parent. It was the wife of somebody who had migrated to the US, and their daughter went to the Johns Hopkins program. Of course, the family was full of doctors. And she said that, my daughter went, and she was a big fan of the CTY program. But she was a fan of the CTY program for a very different reason. She said, my daughter went for the program, and of course she was very good in biology. She excelled in biology, did pre-med, medicine, practicing doctor today. But she said that what I appreciated, the course she took was the top 25 cases of the US Supreme Court. Okay, and she said by taking that course, she had a value system. Her value system got fixed. She fought for justice. There were arguments around the dinner table on various cases. So, these courses, it's not about just an exam, right? It's about building a personality. It's about standing for something, having a value system, right? So, these programs affect children in very different ways. We don't know. But, in India, it's all about, topping some exam or, going somewhere and all. But I think, it's great in personality and character development. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think a lot of the kids, when I talk to them, there are 2-3 things that stand out. One is the freedom to learn. Nobody is judged. Okay, so they're all watching first 2-3 days. Kya ho raha hai types, right? You talk to them, nobody is judged. They can do what they want. So I think freedom, no judgment. You can go and ask a stupid question, and our mentors are all answering that. And I think it just relaxes the brain, and the brain is absorbing full input mode. and your brain can stretch also, as we know. So it's and again it's all three, right? The education, the experience, and the exposure. The child. I mean, look at the situation of families today, right? Single child. Many of them are not left on the road. No peer-to-peer interaction. Many of them, and by the way, device free, right? No dopamine for 3 weeks. I think that itself. I know what's the AQI of Manipal. I think fresh air. That itself, I think the parents should pay us. So for no device and beautiful weather, right? They're actually breathing oxygen out here. No, I think, frankly, I'll tell you, the reason we did that was no parent interference. Right? Other parents are calling, what did you eat? What did you? I think that was the main objective. But I felt that lot of it has turned out positively, and now we know the situation that our devices are number one issue of mental health. I think it has swung. I don't know. We took a call, but I think it's in the best. And I think it's worked out well. I think parents have told us that they have seen the personality of the child change. I think just doing their own bed, being organized, having a clear mind. And by the way, on the phone, I hear stories from you all only that, first 2-3 days, especially the boys. The girls speak to the parents, but the boys, after the third day, they will say, "Oh, we are very busy with our projects. We can't talk to you." So they're not interested in talking to their parents also on the third or fourth day. So I think the parents are, in my view, they're over involved in their child's life. So typically, a lot of the hiring of the mentors is very reference based. But I personally look at where has the person taught, where has he studied, has he lived in multiple geographies, worked for different situations. I look for zigzag in careers. I personally, when I say zigzag, people who do interesting stuff in their careers. For example, I was a chip designer, then I went into education. I'm also a venture capitalist. So from that point of view, we look for people who do interesting stuff, and I think we've got a good bunch. And it's very weird that some of the mentors want to just keep coming back because just being with some of the brightest children just energizes them. It's a good change. A lot of people say it sort of detoxes them for 3 weeks, and I think if you're a mentor who wants to teach kids, I think you should consider coming and teaching here because it's a great, as I said, pure oxygen and good food. By the way, the food in Manipal is outstanding. Nobody complains about the food. So I think it's a great part of the country that serves great food. This one is a little, it's a little moving one, and it so happened in this is 23 Godrej sponsored 10 children for coming to our program, and they were selected from the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya. And that year, the person who funded from Godrej in charge is Omar Momin. He came down to the program. And on the last day, we got all the 10 girls, and we were sitting around and asking how the program went and all. And actually the first week of the program, I was stressed out. I was personally here because you have children from two socioeconomic right? You have kids talking about olives and Nike shoes and this brand, and I went to a holiday, and then you have this children from maybe father is a driver, migrant labor, runs a bakery or runs a tea shop, and these kids from the Jawahar Navodaya system, equally capable, more rugged, they are mixing together, right? And there's a lot of rub off, and all kinds of feedback was coming. Some people said you shouldn't have done this. Some people said this is going to be a disaster. and it just worked out fine. I think there was a little bit of turbulence in the first 3-4 days, but there was this one girl who said, so she said, and she actually narrated it the way that she said, first few days we were very scared, we didn't know what we were getting into. And the second week she said, we were all on the same page, and in the third week we realized we are no less. And I think if that girl had not come to this program and had gone through this, India's, what I would say, India is still a very caste and privilege based society, right? If she had gone through the normal, probably that realization that she is no less would have probably taken her 10 years in normal social life, because she would have had to fight, probably passed an exam, got a job, and fight society to get the confidence she got in 3 weeks. I think there were about 30 kids that were sponsored by this Pravag company in Hyderabad. And we were sitting and the CEO was asking questions, and this kid who got up excitedly and said, "Oh, it was a fantastic program, we learned. And tomorrow when I become a manager, I'll make sure my company sponsors kids for this program, and I will make sure that they get the opportunity." So I think it's the issue is I started somewhere. Okay, we started somewhere, and then all these accidents happen, right? And you this, and I think I need society to realize, and the Americans do it very well. I think gifted students are everywhere. It's not that they are more in richer parts of society or privileged parts of, they're everywhere. They have to be identified, and I think they're a national treasure, but time bound, and it is extremely scarce. There's a process, you have to find them, you need scouts, you need for example, there may be a kid who is damn good in English but maybe okay in other subjects, right? Our system is on overall percentage. You need overall percentage to get into some college. You have to find those things. You have to find where the talent is, where the child is there. That takes, and I think America, Europe do it very well. Unfortunately, our education system. I hope, I don't know. I have not read the NEP program. I hear that there's something, but the mindset to change will take a long time. No, I think it remains the same. The struggle is for you always have people, policy, technology, right? Unfortunately, the policy doesn't support you, right? Because there are. I'm telling you, in our program, right? A child comes in grade 8, parents says, "Oh, lovely program," and then I've called them the next year. "Oh, but Mr. Patil, she has to give this paper and this entrance and this entrance." So there's so much pressure that, and what is 3 weeks? 3 weeks out of 52 weeks to just leave the child alone. I think it's sad. So I think we'll keep going at it. One day, the world, India will wake up and say this is the best thing, and it's already happening, right? Computer science, computer science, computer science, computer. Now nobody is getting a job in computer science. So now that's the whole thing about this program. These kids, we trigger the spark of lifelong learning, adaptation, right? Once you learn how to get to the basic principle and solve problems, know this. That's why I like zigzag careers. People who can start somewhere, reinvent themselves, and if you're stripped of everything, you should be able to start life again. I hope, and I'm pretty sure the kids who come for this program can do it. But we measure on something else. No, parents are very appreciative when they come to the program. By the way, there was one child. A lot of parents do acknowledge in the later years when I meet them. The kids have gone to college. They do refer back to this program saying that it did change the child's personality. It changed the way the child started studying, addressing problems, right? But you don't know till, there's always stress, right? And then I think as they start performing in life, then they do well. And I think we've got some fantastic examples of ex-students who have done well. And I'm pretty sure when GenWise is about 20 years old, I think we'll have some real big stars like Zuckerberg and in any product, there are three parts to it, right? Available, affordable, accessible. Okay. I think we are available and accessible, right? I think the 3-week residential program is extremely resource intensive. And I'll tell you why resource intensive. When I look at the most important thing about this program is the parent is handing the child to us, right? The security of the child is primary. And the processes we go through, a lot of it copied from Johns Hopkins, right? We ensure the safety and security of the child. Unfortunately, that doesn't come free, right? So it really adds up. The problem is we can't hold the gifted program in a particular school because in a class there may be 1 or 2 gifted. So it's very difficult to create critical mass, or it's very difficult to create critical mass even across the city. So online is one option. We have started exploring the online option to at least start talking to the kids. We have started Gifted World. We are trying to create a community. I think government intervention is absolutely required, where children are identified. I have no problem, as I say, a lot of people call me and say, oh, that some other company has started a gifted program. I said 280 million K-12 children in India. So even if you take 1% who probably are gifted, that's 2.8 million. What are we doing? 150. So I think this government needs to get involved. Other companies need to get involved and find better ways. And I think the government has to fund it. This is more scarce than gold. This is more scarce than this resource. And it's a resource which they will define technology, society, administration, all this will come from these children. But there's so much we can do. I think the parents should realize that first of all, it's just a 3-week program. It's going to do nothing for, it's going to make, these kids are already gifted, they can lap up stuff. But when they come to this program, the children find their tribe, they can talk their music, they can talk their jokes. And, I think in society, I think these children need some friction so that they stay away from their home, learn to communicate, all the soft skills which they do not get in the school. And of course, the gifted is just an additional bonus. But I think the social, and I stand very firm on this, the social outcome of this program is far more than the education part of it.